was a question for me, but yes. Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, so if I control, okay, share sound. Okay, there we go. So if I switch between tabs, can you see that? Like, can you see me on a different tab right now? Or no? I can't hear you guys. Okay, hold on.
Switching tabs works. Windows, I think, might not, but tabs at least should work.
Yeah, we can see the tabs, but not the windows.
Oh, you can see different tabs?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So I will start by saying a little bit about history. I guess. I mean, I'm not a historian, so don't like take anything I say seriously. But so Russian. So a little bit of background about me. I was born in oh my God, I feel like I'm going blind here. I hate how I can't see anyone. Hold on. How do I get a little side view going on? All right, guys. I feel like my professors. Hold on. Okay, anyways, maybe I'll just go blind. So I was born in Ukraine, and I lived there for like 8 years. So I was growing up there in like a bilingual household, which meant that I was born in Kiev, which is let's see what they say about Kiev here. Kiev is I'm really bad at geography. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Part of the northern part of Ukraine. And people in this region speak predominantly Russian, but they also learn Ukrainian. And growing up, I also like spoke Russian at home. But in the classroom, like they spoke in Ukrainian, so I learned Ukrainian as well. And I guess that's one note about like history of like Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian came first. I don't know if you guys heard anything different. It's a lie. Ukrainian came first. Let's see what they say. Okay, so Old Russian, 11th century. Let's see what they say here. Yes. There we go. 10th century. Ukrainian came first. So a lot of the similarities I'm going to talk about are pretty like innate because the two languages, like Russian, came from
Is she frozen for everybody else? Yep.
countries because of communism. And so, okay, it says that my internet connection is unstable. Can you guys am I breaking up or can you hear me?
You froze up for a second, but now we can hear you fine.
Okay, sorry about that. I can't do anything about that. It's the Harvard Wi-Fi.
No worries.
But so I was just saying that because of communism, a lot of countries speak Russian, as is the case with Ukraine. But one thing that I want to point out is that Ukrainian and Russian are not mutually what do you call that? You can't understand Ukrainian by speaking Russian. But I do think that the rule of thumb is that people who speak Ukrainian are more likely to know or to understand Russian than the other way around. And that's also, once again, because of the history of communism and how everyone had to speak Russian and Ukrainian at one point. But that was never the case in Russia. No one went to Russia and said everyone has to speak Ukrainian now. So, okay, that's a little bit of my history spiel. I don't know anything else besides that, so I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't know. But obviously, wars that go on add to the tension between who wants to speak what. So I know that in Ukraine, the eastern region where a lot of conflict is right now, predominantly speak Russian, whereas the western part is all Ukrainian. So Politics also influences language. Who would have thought? So phonology, this is I feel like the interesting part because when you listen to Russian and Ukrainian, I feel like it's Spanish and Portuguese. Like it's very easy to hear the similarities, but they still sound like two different languages. And the reason is because Russian has some sounds that Ukrainian does not, and vice versa. Or like not does not, but like, how do I say this? Like the compounds of two sounds will be used in Ukrainian to make a Russian sound that is just one sound. I don't know if that makes sense. But for example, if we look at the alphabets, so I am not like that hardo that I will be able to tell you the differences. But just looking at this now, you can see that there's two like different G sounds. And I think that actually, can you guys see like my mouse, like my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this sound is like a h sound, and it's kind of like a softer version of this like hard g sound, which exists in Russian as this sound. So I guess that's one difference, and it's actually a very common difference. Like a lot of words in Ukrainian use the h sound that doesn't exist in Russian. So that's one difference. Let's see what else. What else can I spot? Oh, there we go. Ukrainian has this S sound that Russian splits into e and yeah and yeah, and it's hard to like say it by itself, but basically in words these are two different sounds, whereas in Ukrainian like it just kind of keeps it as one. And that's another thing about kind of Russian. It has a lot of what do you call that? Vowel reductions where like when you read something, the vowels don't sound like they should. So it has a lot of rules where like the O ends up sounding like an A, which doesn't happen in Ukrainian. You pretty much read what's on the page and that's how you sound it out. So that's maybe another reason for like different sounds that you see. Let's see, this y sound is also very important in Ukrainian. By important, I mean like it gets used a lot. Yeah, this these two sounds get broken down from sh, which also exists in, oh, I guess both of them also exist. And yeah, both of them exist in Russian and Ukrainian, but the difference is between saying sh and sh is very like pronounced in Ukrainian, I would say. Whereas Russian tends to make sounds that like softer than Ukrainian. Like for example, the ch sound here, if you were to say a word like chai in Russian, the ch is like pretty soft in comparison to like the hard chai in Russian. It's hard to, I mean, in Ukrainian, it's hard to like hear over Zoom, I'm sure, but like if you were just listening in a conversation, you would be able to differentiate the hard and the soft sounds, which like chai and chai. Yeah, okay, that's the alphabets. I don't really know if I got everything. I probably didn't. But in terms of grammar, oh, okay, this is talking about morphology, but I'm going to go into grammar. So in Russian, you have, let's see, it should be the order here. Let me check my interview. The order is noun, subject, oh wait, subject, object, verb. Let's see, did they agree with me? I don't want to like tell you guys the wrong information. Let's just say that they agree with me. So that means like instead of saying, let's see, I love you, where I'm the subject and you are the object. In Russian, it would be I, you, love. And that's actually one way that you can tell. I feel like that's one way you can tell when someone uses a translator from English to Russian versus when they're actually like speaking it because they know, is that they'll often get the word order mixed up because they'll just say like, they'll just use each word as they would in English. So they'll be like, я люблю тебя, which is saying I love you, but that's just not, anyone would who speaks Russian would just like, that would sound weird to them. Like they would understand you, but that would sound weird to them. What else should I say about that? Noun endings. Here you go. There's a nice. They have what looks like 6 cases. I know Ukrainian has an extra vocative case here, which is used the same way as it is in Latin. Like when you're like calling out to someone, you would use that case and it would have its own ending that Russian does not. But yeah, here are the cases. I'm sure you guys have seen these charts before, so you know how to read them better than I do. But one other big difference is that, you know, every ending has gender and number. So it's one of those languages. Let's see, what else? Inanimate objects also have gender, which is very like hard to explain to someone who's trying to learn Russian just like from a textbook, because a lot of these things are like pretty innate. Like if I ask my mom like what gender a tree is, she would tell me based on like what type of tree it is. But when I ask her like, oh, why is it masculine, or like why is it feminine, she would just say like, oh, it's just the way it is. And when I ask her like, oh, like how did you first learn that it's masculine or feminine, she'd just be like, you just kind of learn it. And like, I guess when you hear someone else talk about it, there's like no reasoning behind it. Not like, you know, this type of tree is a feminine tree, you know, it's just more of just like something, I don't know, just one of those quirks. Yeah, and it does have a neuter case that also shares endings between masculine and neuter, so it's ambiguous. Yeah, let's see, what else? One thing that I just personally like, it was hard for me to like switch from Russian to and Ukrainian to English, is that it's a lot more like, because I guess of this like gendering, it's a lot more what do you call that? Oh, there's a word for it that I'm just not gonna remember, but pretty much you tack on stuff at the end of the word. And you can tack on a lot of things to the same word and it will change its meaning. So I guess morphology. But like, for example, if you wanted to call someone by like a cute, like a pet name or something, you would add a certain like ending to a word. And that would like make it have like a cute meaning, which doesn't translate into English. And I feel like a lot of like, if you were to speak to someone who talks Russian, like they would use a lot of those types of things, just like tack on into the end of words, like, oh, like a little dog is a dog is a sabaka and a little dog is a sabachka. And like saying those two different, you're saying the same thing, I guess. Well, you're still talking about a dog, but like it's a completely different tone. Which English doesn't have. So that's something interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I think I've talked for enough. So I'm gonna just show you like a video on the differences. Sped it up because it was too slow.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5,
5,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8,
8,
9,
9,
10,
10,
яблоко,
яблуко,
банан,
банан,
ананас,
ананас,
хлеб,
That's just like
Хліб.
really stupid of them to do because a lot of like new like fruits that you wouldn't find growing in Russia and Ukraine just take the same like foreign word. So like pineapple is the same word in both because it's a foreign word. But with like things like bread, that was obviously growing there. So you have two different words for it. So I guess the more related a word is to the language, that's where you would see differences between Russian and Ukrainian.
картошка,
картопля,
сыр,
сир,
молоко,
Well, there you go.
Молоко.
That's an example of vowel reduction. So you see in Russian, malako, even though they're all O's, they have different like sounds. Whereas in Ukrainian, it's the O is always an O. So yeah, you just kind of read it, and that's how you read what's on the page.
суп,
суп,
чай,
чай,
кофе,
кава,
собака,
собака,
кошка,
кішка,
корова,
корова,
лошадь,
кінь,
медведь,
ведмідь,
волк,
вовк,
тигр,
тигр,
лев,
лев,
жираф,
жирафа,
слон,
слон,
самолет,
літак,
чемодан,
чемодан,
билет,
квиток,
автобус,
автобус,
машина,
автомобіль,
мотоцикл,
мотоцикл,
велосипед,
велосипед,
поезд,
поїзд,
лодка,
човен,
ракета,
ракета.
That was, I don't know that what I wanted to show you with that, just that they're similar, I guess. Yeah. I don't really, what else? What else can I say about maybe let's see. Oh, negatives, like double negatives are a thing in Russian. So like no, I don't like means I don't like. I don't know. I always get confused about like what the meaning of a double negative is in English, but like it's just a stronger negative, I guess. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but if you guys, I'm sure you guys have questions. So it's kind of a lame presentation, but hope you guys have questions.
I thought that was really cool, and also like Serbian basically has like all the same words for the stuff in the video. So I think like the languages are a lot more mutually intelligible than say like Germanic. It's kind of cool to see all these similarities.
Yeah, and I think like the family, so like I think the three closest to Ukrainian would be Russian, and I think the language that they speak in Belarus. But I would say that Ukrainian is more related to like Belarus and like Polish than it is to Russian. So maybe that's one reason as why like Russian speakers tend to not understand Ukrainians as well as Ukrainians understand Russian speakers. But like obviously that's a like a blanket statement. That's not true. I have a couple of friends from Western Ukraine, which is like the region that's closer to Poland, and has like historically always spoken like plain Ukrainian and no Russian at all. And they just, they don't speak Russian, they don't understand it. So it just depends on the region. But I would say just as in general, like it's some extent mutually intelligible.
My aunt is from Western Ukraine, and she grew up like near the Polish border, and there was like still Russian presence. So she grew up speaking Russian, Ukrainian, and Polish, and then she married a Serbian man. Um, so she, I think she described it as like the Southern and Eastern Slavic are a lot closer than Polish, which is like really random out there and not like the others.
Yeah, my mom always, she was also just like growing up speaking Russian, but like I guess she learned Russian and Ukrainian at the same time, but it was during communism, so like Russian was taught in schools. So but she always said that like she had no problem like going to Poland because that's what the kids did back then. They just go to Poland, and like she would always understand like anything that like Polish people spoke, which I always wanted to check her on that because I feel like they're two different languages still, but she swears that like she understands Polish.
I know like for my aunt when she first started dating my uncle, he just spoke to her in Serbian, she just spoke right back in Russian, and they just understood each other.
Wow, that's so cool.
Also, Serbian doesn't like palatize things like I don't know how much Ukrainian does. I didn't catch on that, but I know Russian does a lot.
Yeah, Russian does a lot. Let's see, what can I say? I know that Ukrainian does a lot of like alveolar stuff. So that's another way you can kind of set it apart when you're listening in like conversations. Like it's it's like a joke too, that if you're from like the countryside, you have a certain dialect that's like more simple, and people that people that speak that way have more of like a hook, like they speak everything like on the like fricative kind of side of things. So that's like something I know, but in terms of like other phonology stuff, I know that dialects, dialects are very important in Russian because they signify like what, for a long time in history, they signified like what social status you were. So a lot of people that have like the Moscow accent, to me, it always sounds very like it's very easy to tell apart because of certain ways that they say the same words, but like in a different tone. I don't really know if this is like makes it a dialect, but like it's just like super easy. Like it just sits wrong on the ear for me, which is like only because I speak like like the most common standard Russian. But everything just gets drawn out more, and it's kind of like a nasally tone. And I know that like regions like St. Peter's have a different, more kind of like aristocratic dialect, which I've never like I guess I could hear a difference, but I wouldn't be able to like place it as like, oh yeah, that person is from that part. But it's really interesting to hear. Like my mom, or like me, even personally, when I go to like different parts of Eastern Europe, like it's very hard not to change. Like I find myself changing the way I speak too, which I don't know if for you guys who are like also speak another language, but like when you go there, like all of a sudden, like you're speaking in the same dialect as the people around you, even if you haven't spoken that language in like conversation for a really long time. So cool.
When did you learn English? Did you always know that, or did you like learn that when you came over to America?
Oh no, I learned it when I was like 8 years old. I didn't know my brother was taking my older brother was taking like English classes in Ukraine, but they were like British English, so it was like a completely different like pronunciation. But he had at least some like start, and I didn't have anything. So I like ended up having to go to second grade again because like I was intellectually I was there, but like I did not speak a word of English. So I had to like do second grade again, but it's okay because I went to school like a year earlier anyway. So I ended up being like in the same grade level. But yeah, I learned it when I was 8. And I think I fell into that, whatever they define as like that critical period where like you can speak it as well as your, like clearly I speak it as well as it is like, it isn't my first language, but I speak it more than I speak my first language. So I don't have an accent, but my brother came outside of like, I think they put like 7 to like, I mean, it's different, but I think they go like 7 to like 13 or 7 to 11 as like the period of time where you can like learn a second language as good as the first. And my brother was older than that, and he like definitely does not have an accent. So I think that's like an arbitrary measure.
Huh. Did you have any like difficulties like picking up English, or were there any particular confusions that resulted from knowing the Slavic languages?
Yeah, I think that it's a very different, like there are a lot of culture shocks like that come from linguistics. Like Slavic languages in general tend to have a lot more like colorful like vocabulary when it comes to like vulgar things, like a lot more swear words and like a lot more like ways to offend someone, which made me like, like it made me into a pretty like me and my brother, like it made us into pretty like insensitive children because like I don't know, I feel like American kids are very well, I don't want to make that statement, but like it was just very hard to like not be able to like make fun of someone. I don't know if that makes sense, but like yeah, what else? It was very, I had an accent for like 2 years because I feel like the sounds are completely different. Like it's very hard for me, like even now to like switch. Like if I'm on the phone with my mom and I'm in the cafeteria, like about to order, like I start to talk to her in like English phonology, but like Russian. And it's such a weird like mix. Like it sounds so awful, but like that's what I find myself doing when I have to like switch. And I'm sure like a lot of like if anyone else is like bilingual or like multilingual, like that's a struggle. Um, and yeah, so I ended up like mixing up a lot of words. Like for some reason, words in English sound very similar to each other when I first started like learning it. So like I would always mix up 2 words that mean like absolutely different things. Like I remember like pumpkin and napkin sounded the same to me. So I would mix those up all the time. I'd be like, can I have a pumpkin? And like my teacher would be like, what are you talking? So yeah, just like little stuff like that. But I was in that, I was pretty young. So like, and my parents pushed me to like assimilate. So I guess that's why I didn't have as many struggles as some other kids might have.
Did you ever do things like talk about like inanimate objects with the gender? I don't know. Like the table, he is.
Oh,
know.
for sure. Of course I
Oh.
did. But I played it off as like a kid thing because I feel like I was young enough. So I would just be like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Like I didn't mean that. But in reality, I always meant it. Like a lot of things I don't believe in superior war, but a lot of things like I will never look at them as like non-gendered. Like, let's see, what's a good example? Like I guess the trees example again, like certain trees are very, very like ingrained into my mind as either masculine or feminine. And like it makes no sense, but like, I don't know, like it changes my mind when I'm looking at something like that a little bit. But in terms of like inanimate objects, I don't know. I don't know what would be a good example, but like, yeah. I don't know, maybe someone said something in the chat. Oh, akno is neutral?
Yeah, the suffix at the end is o, which is a neutral suffix, I think.
It could be masculine too.
Wow. When I was learning it, it could be, yeah, it could be masculine as well. But when I was learning it, the suffixes like o at the end and then yeah would be neutral.
Yeah. So like ano, akno, ano. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of neutral things that just like are weird. Hold on, I feel like I have to find an example now. Like some of this stuff, it really changes the way you see stuff. Like, hold on, I'm actually on the vocabulary page right now. Let's see. Oh, also like a lot of people, this is something I meant to mention in the before the video. Like, I don't know if you guys remember like the milk example, like it in Russian, it's malako, and in Ukrainian, it's moloko, and they're both spelled the same with O's. And that like a lot of songs or just like people who speak in Surzhyk, which means like in a mix of Russian and Ukraine, or like Russian and anything, in a mix of anything and anything. But specifically people who speak in like Russian Ukrainian mix, they always make jokes about that because like it means the same thing and it's spelled the same way, but it's pronounced in two different ways. And I feel like to me, at least the way I was brought up, which is obviously like very biased towards the Ukrainian side, but like it just feels to me like a lot of Russian words just try to be so different, like for no reason. And it always gives me pain and like other like Russian speakers and any speakers pain because like, what was the reason? Like you could have just kept it the same, but no, like a lot of words just like completely like it makes no sense when you read it. Kind of like English, I feel like some sounds make no sense. But let's see, what are some neutral words?
From what you said in the video, Russian and Ukrainian have these, if I remember correctly, you said that Russian and Ukrainian have some words in common because they're loan words. If they're both loan words, if they're both from the same loan word, why are they pronounced differently? Do you have any?
Yeah,
any
no,
idea?
I have no idea, like for what reason. I know a lot of words, it makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of Russian words are borrowed from like foreign, like French words. So that might be a difference, but if in terms of pronunciation, like especially when you compare it to other like Slavic languages, like they're all the same, at least the same root words. And if you look at Russian, it's always something like different, especially for like a lot of common words. Like if you say thank you, I feel like a lot of, I don't know, does anyone speak like a Slavic language? Like in Ukrainian, it's "дякую," which kind of sounds like "Dankeschön," which is like in German, but like it has some type of like D something, I feel like in a lot of languages. But in Russian, it's "спасибо," which makes no sense. Like it literally comes from nowhere. Like where does that come from? Like I just want to know. But yeah, I'm not sure why they would do it that way. I mean, a lot of Russian was like an effort to distance from like other Slavic languages. So I think it was like a conscientious, like, let us make ourselves different type of thing. But then again, like, I'm not sure who came up with that. Let's see. I do want to find a neutral word because I feel like some of them are so funny.
While you're doing that, I have another question. How does your language how do both Russian and Ukrainian, for that matter, define animacy?
Animacy?
Yeah, how does Russian distinguish between animate and inanimate? Are there specific things? I remember in my linguistics class we were talking about how some languages see, for example, insects as inanimate while others see insects as animate. Is there anything particularly interesting about animate versus inanimate in your languages?
I think with both Ukrainian and Russian, like they're the same rules about what's animate and what isn't. What those rules are, I could not tell you, but I think a lot of them have to do with like some of them are so random, like window, like for what reason. But I know a lot of things that have to do with nature. Let's see. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like big nature words. Yeah, I feel like a lot of them are neutral. Like, I mean, not neutral, inanimate. But then again, it's like such a like it's such an innate thing that like no one really sits down and like teaches you, that it just only like you only notice it when it like comes up in conversation. I don't know. I think I'm gonna call I'm gonna call on the audience. Let's see what Al has to say about this.
Yeah, I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Al. I think so. Like for example, when I was learning English, and I already knew Russian before that, and when I was learning English, and I found out that for dogs we have to use pronouns he or she. You can't use it, and I was confused about that because in Russian you use um, it to describe or like to refer to dogs or animals in general. Yeah, I think the way like we differentiate in Russian is people. I know it's kind of cruel, but people, you use the normal pronouns he, she, they, and then for like everything else, it's it. Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good way to sum it up. I'm not getting this from my brain. I'm looking at a website and it says animate nouns that have human or animal reference. So we're talking about like I was saying, like people, animals. Well, I think it also depends on like what, let's see. Oh, some words can be both animate and inanimate depending on context. Cool. Yeah, it says nouns that refer to non-living objects and abstract things are usually inanimate, which kind of makes sense. A lot of it does have to do with ending. Like the O definitely will be more likely to be inanimate than other things. But then again, like Al was saying, wait, is dog? Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's so crazy because like I'm also in that English mindset where I'm like, hold on, a dog needs to be alive. Yeah, animate nouns, which usually denote people and animals, and inanimate nouns, which refer to non-living objects. And that's about as far as this website goes. And I think, because I think you can't make us like a blanket statement. A lot of things just like don't make sense. Like it's just like the way it is. Which I feel like isn't the case. Let's see, with other languages, I don't know, you guys can like jump in here, but like, let's see, I'm trying to think of like Spanish. Like I feel like in Spanish, there's very few exceptions where like it doesn't fit into the AO rule. And that's only because a lot of those words are like borrowed from other languages or have like some like spiritual meaning. But yeah, I feel like Russian is very particular about, especially considering like the religious side of things, like the Orthodox Christianity side, where it's like, is it really Christianity? Because it's kind of more like heresy than anything else. But a lot of those like same, like that translates into linguistics. Like I know Easter is coming up, like Orthodox Easter, and like a lot of the traditions that are borrowed, I guess, that are supposed to be Christian, but are actually borrowed a lot from like animistic things. also kind of differentiate between what is part of nature and what isn't. So I think Russian is one of those languages that like really ties into, like it really like depends on what's in front of you in your environments of evolutionary adaptation. And that's the only kind of thing that you're there to like classify. You don't really classify words like pineapple because you don't have pineapples growing there. But yeah, that's kind of my take. I don't know if any of that is valid.
I'm not sure whether I got this before, but are you more comfortable in Ukrainian or in Russian? Maybe.
No, I didn't say. I definitely I would say for all of my life, I've spoken Russian more. And even now, like at home, I speak Russian. So I would say definitely in Russian, and which is really cool because like I do not want to lose Ukrainian ever. Like I don't think I ever will, just because I learned it while I was growing up, like from I guess birth. So when I go to Ukraine, it's really cool. I feel like I'm like an experiment because I go there and I'm like, okay, so I haven't spoken this language in a hot minute, like a good maybe like 2 years. And I go to Ukraine and all of a sudden it's like there's a part of my brain that was always there, but like I didn't use. And then when I'm like in the environment, it just kind of like comes back. So I would definitely say I will always understand Ukrainian like perfectly. Speaking is always like a practice thing. So like if usually when I go to Ukraine, I go for a long period of time. So I would say within like the first like month, I'm already like back to speaking it. But with Russian, I think I've just spoken it for so long that I don't think I'll ever kind of stop speaking it, no matter like how much time goes by. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's an interesting language to know, Ukrainian and Russian, because my roommate is my future roommate is she's from Western Ukraine, and so she speaks Ukrainian and but she doesn't speak Russian. And so like we're kind of like the opposites of each other now, because I speak Russian now and I don't speak Ukrainian now. So I'll be interested in what happens there. Like, will we rub off on each other or will we like reinforce more of the same thing? So I'll get back to you with that. I'll get back to you with an answer.
At one point you mentioned struggling with the shift from speaking English at the cafeteria to talking to your mom on the phone in Russian. Is it harder to switch between English and Russian or between Russian and English?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's definitely harder to go from speaking Russian to speaking English. Like for sure. Just because I feel like I never have to do that in like real life unless I'm forced to. Because I'm usually just at home and I'm just like speaking Russian. I'm actually speaking Serbian. I always speak both. Like I speak a mix of two, but like usually it's Russian, right? And so I would never have to like make that switch where I'm like, okay, now we're speaking English. Whereas with English, I feel like I was the kid that always like got stuck with mom when we went to like the grocery store. And so it's like when she had to say something in English, like I was the translator. So I feel like I would just always like, like if I was always ready to speak like Russian from English at like any second, but not the other way around. So yeah, definitely. I don't know if that's the case for other bilingual speakers, because it would seem that it would be the other way around. Like it should be easier for me to speak. I'm so confused right now. Hold on. Russian. I'm speaking Russian and I'm switching to English. No, I'm speaking English and I'm switching to Russian. Yeah, it should be easier for me to speak English and switch to Russian because I speak English a lot more daily, but like I don't know. It's just not the way it is.
It's also super weird when you mix up the two languages.
You mean like in speech, like when
Yeah.
I say,
Mhm.
oh my God, it's the weirdest. It's the weirdest because
Yes.
it makes no sense in either language. Like, you know, with like English and Spanish, like you can kind of like make mixed words and that makes sense. I feel like with English, like there's no way you can save that. Like, like there's so many times where I'm like looking at someone and I say something in Russian and I'm like convinced that they will get it. Like I'm convinced that I'm speaking English. And like I don't know, like it just makes no like it always happens when I'm like multitasking because that's definitely how the brain works and like when you're like multitasking between like two different things, like I guess there's more stuff being exchanged, so like it's easier to slip up. But like I'll always be like talking to someone and I'm like, I get so excited and I like use a Russian word and they just kind of like, I think they just like ignore it because like it doesn't really make sense, but it's always funny anyways. But yeah, that's kind of my spiel.
If nobody has any more questions, that was like a really cool perspective. Like it's really unique kind of angle that you have on that. So that was really interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
I had a couple of like housekeeping things for Linguistic Society. And I guess you can stop the recording. Yeah, thanks again. That was really cool.